Tour junkies.
What's going on, golf addicts? Welcome to the 2025 Valero Texas Open DraftKings DFS preview. You know, we said it last week. We were going to kind of dip the toes in the DFS waters, get everybody back going, back acclimated, because as of now, they've posted 3 Millionaire Maker contests on DraftKings for the Masters, and that's next week, a week from today. We will be talking about Augusta National and the Masters, the first major of the year. I'm pumped. So we're gonna get it going, get you back in the DFS swing of things. DB here, Pat Perry, live from Savannah, Georgia, getting ready for the Corn Ferry Tour event, the big Corn Ferry Tour event out there at the Landings.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's a big week out here at the Landings. So, Club Car Championship. Also, spring has started. Spring has sprung, DB, and we're dressed a little too dark for spring. I feel like we need some lighter colors. I mean, Masters is next week, and we're just sort of, maybe we need to unbutton a button or something, like get a little, get more acclimated to the spring weather instead of looking so, gloomy and dark.
I was looking to see if I had a shirt up here, but I don't. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have any remedy for that. Maybe I'll change it up before we do the next show. Maybe we'll do that.
Well, I got a nice beer, Stella.
Ugh.
Stella tonight.
Ugh, gross.
You don't like Stella?
I could tolerate just about any beer. I do not like a Stella.
Really?
Yeah, not a fan.
I don't think I knew that about you. We've done this a long time. I don't think I knew that about you.
Yeah, don't buy me a Stella. I'll turn my nose. I will turn my nose up at it. You will have wasted your $6.50 or whatever if you're trying to buy me a drink at a bar. Hey, we're gonna Minwoo Lee won. And we were both all about that. We'll talk about that on the other show, but we were both all about it. And let's talk a little bit about Houston before we get into Valero. We're going to talk a little bit about the DFS implications. I almost said implications.
Sounds like something I would do. Yeah.
It sounded right in my brain as it almost rolled out my tongue. And then I think actually my tongue stopped it. I think my mouth actually intervened because I was about to say implications. Implications.
I kind of wish you had fully said it so that we could have that clipped, but that's okay.
Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but the Houston Texas Rangers Children's Hospitals Organization Open, or whatever it was quite entertaining. Memorial Park delivers. I like it. I like it. And I gotta say, we've said it before. We're going to say it all year. This is year 10 for us. We've been doing this 10 years, since 2015. Started doing DraftKings DFS in the streets 10 years ago. So, 40-something PGA Tour events a year. That's a lot of shows, a lot of tournaments we've previewed, okay? And sometimes it's kind of nice to have a venue like Memorial Park, a venue like we had in Mexico at Vedanta a couple weeks ago, kind of a venue where you just know what you got to have. There's not a ton of variance. It's like, well, when you're at Memorial Park, you better move it off the tee. No short knockers allowed. We say no to short knockers. Don't do it. No, go home. We say the same thing at Vedanta. Next week at Augusta National, we know it's just kind of nice. It's nice when you just kind of know what to expect. And sometimes it just frees up the brain when you're handicapping this, right? That's what I'm talking about. When you're evaluating DFS lineups or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this week last week was nice from that standpoint. I mean, it was, and I think there's a reason that you and I are both pretty high on Minwoo Lee. He does exactly all the things that you have to do out here on that golf course. So I do like when it's easy. I think this week actually has a pretty, consistent player profile when you look at past champions. I think there is a consistent theme here this week on this golf course too.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a minute. We're going to talk about some of the golf course at Valero and in San Antonio. But taking a look back at some of the names, some of the leaderboard, the roster construction, or the roster numbers. I would say for the most part, let's talk about the chalk last week at Houston, because a good thing to do when you're playing DFS, a good thing to do is to kind of go back and and pay attention to where the chalk was. Pay attention to who was rostered highly, who paid off, who didn't, because that is going to likely, we're all recency biased creatures. It's going to likely influence the next week or the week after. So, we do our best to try to predict these things and come up with what we think the rostered ownerships are going to be on Wednesday night, but we're not always great. We did have Rory and Scotty pretty much nailed. Scotty was around 37, 36%. Rory came in around 31. Scotty finishes runner-up for the third time, I think, in 4 years. Just one shy of Minwoo. Thought he was going to run him down. Rory surges on Sunday, ends up finishing T5, then complains about his elbow. Quick pause there on those two, because we talked about those two last week in Augusta. Neither one playing this week. Going to take the break. We know Rory's already made a scouting trip to Augusta National, but we'll obviously be talking about them a lot for Augusta and for the Masters. What are your thoughts on how they both played this week leading up to Augusta and Rory's elbow owie?
Well, a couple things there, and I'm glad you mentioned the elbow. But I'll talk about Scotty first. I think obviously we saw pretty much what we needed to see out of Scotty. I don't think he was at the very top of his game, but he putted great. Almost won the golf tournament. I feel like he probably.
Huge week.
I feel like he did still get to see what he wanted to see. This is sort of what we thought Scheffler might do this week. Is he definitely was motivated to try and win, but it did feel like this was really the perfect kind of week for him leading up to Augusta. And so I feel pretty good about Scotty. And how can you not? I mean, he's the best player in the world. But switching over to Rory, same thing really, because it's just a continuation of what he's done all year. One wins the Players a couple weeks ago. The game is where I think it needs to be. So now you bring up the elbow. That's a perfect way to describe it. An owie. It's like a little thing, it's kind of like an owie. And maybe he needs an owie leading up into Augusta. Like he's always put so much pressure on himself. He's, to win this golf tournament, it's a major. We know he wants to win. He's had chances and he's kind of thrown them away. Maybe needs a little bit of an owie distraction, DB. Is there a stat we could come up with for an owie distraction?
No.
Strokes lost with owies?
Can I tell you that I have an elbow owie that has been plaguing me now for about the last year, and it's not going away. And in fact, it's getting worse regardless what I do to try to help it. I have golfer's elbow in my left elbow, my lead elbow, and it is a very nagging thing. And I often wonder, how do I have that? Because I play golf once a week and that's it. How do these guys not have it? What is going on? I do exercises. I do strengthening things. Doesn't matter. I ice it. I take anti-inflammatories. I don't know, but
Are you
never
comparing yourself to Rory?
Yes, I never had this issue until I was 40. And I don't understand why I have this issue, but it does not go away. And it doesn't just affect me on days I play golf. It affects me the whole week. Like I wake up in the middle of the night. If I just roll over and have to get up out of bed or something and I push off of it, I will feel the elbow owie of my golfer's elbow. So I get it. I have to wear the little brace thing now when I play so that it keeps it from getting worse. It's terrible.
Do you wear that tape that goes in weird places?
Like tape?
Yeah, like you may have a hurt on your right arm, but it goes on your left arm.
KT tape works, dude. That stuff works. It does not do well for my golfer's elbow, but KT tape works for sure. If KT wants to advertise with us, I will happily do that. Anyway, that's Rory and Scotty. Whether or not, I guess they kind of paid off their ownership, but you were probably okay if you didn't have them. I don't know. Sahith was 21% owned, not good. T67. Max Gracerman was 17% rostered, miscut for him. Aaron Rye, 14% owned, miscut for him. Jacob Bridgman, 15% owned, miscut for him. Your boy Finau, 14%, T32. You didn't need him. Highsmith, 14% miscut. And then it was Ben Griffin and Jake Knapp. That rounds out your top 10. Griffin finished T18, not terrible, around 13%. Knapp was around 13%. He finished T27, whatever. So really kind of a crappy week for the chalk, unless you had, I guess, Scotty or Rory, definitely paid off, or I guess debatable in terms of how they paid off. Maybe Ben Griffin paid off okay. I think he made a lot of birdies, T18.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, you were fine. Completely bailing on the chalk. Minwoo, who wins, was around 12%. And then the rest of the top 10 was littered with low-owned goodies. Gary Woodland, 2%. Good to see him have a good week. Sammy Valimaki, 1.5%. Wyndham Clark at 7.8. Taylor Pendrith, 9%. Toasty, who had quite the Sunday.
He did.
And quite the day today on X. We'll get into that
He's
now.
electric.
Toasty around 3.5%. Ryan Gerard, who I talked up Ryan Gerard on this DFS show last week about being kind of a pivot. He was 3.4%. And this is the last thing I want to say about the Houston. Who rosters Mackenzie Hughes? I don't understand. He was 11.24% owned. Now, did he play well? Did he pay off? Okay, yes, sure, whatever. Does he typically? Absolutely not. But who are the 11.2% of people who roster this fool? For what reason? Who? Is there someone in the industry? Like I know our boy Pat Mayo's had a soft spot for him in the past. I can't imagine Pat is still like antsy to play this guy. He shows zero semblance of really any form all year. He doesn't check any boxes, none boxes. And then people roster him at 12%. I don't understand. Please, if you're in the comments, first of all, like and subscribe. Comment why. Raise your hand. The first step is admitting it. I rostered Mackenzie Hughes, and good for you. Again, he finished solo 10th. Good for you. You're smarter than me. But I would love to know the rationale because or who out there in the industry is talking him up. I don't understand it. Did you have any Mackenzie Hughes exposure?
I did not. As a matter of fact, I gotta admit, I didn't even know Mackenzie Hughes finished in the top 10. I did not.
You would.
He's not a memorable type person.
No, he's not. It's unbelievable. I don't know.
Now Toasty is. He's very memorable.
Toasty's extremely miserable. Yeah. I would I would use some of Toasty's words that he used today on X. I would use those to describe Mackenzie Hughes and all of his backers. And I'm not afraid to say I can't stand Mackenzie Hughes.
Yeah. Well, we know that. This has been established for the last few years now.
Okay, well, good. All right, that's enough of the Houston. Let's move on. Let's talk Valero. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk a little bit about the golf course, looking at bet the number here. So this is comparing the last 4 years. I went kind of everything post-COVID, where the Oaks Course, TPC San Antonio, Greg Norman and Sergio Garcia, co-designers here. I still can't believe the tour continues to play this golf course. I mean, even though they've been playing it a long time, just with all the tour's bitterness against LIV, it still cracks me up that they play this course. And I don't know, it's just funny. You can see the fairway and regulation number a lot lower than tour average. Green and regulation lower than tour average. Everything else kind of there. I think the average winning score the last 4 or 5 years has been around 15 under. A lot of overseed here. Greens are a lot smaller than last week. Your last few winners here include Akshay last year, Corey Connors, JJ Spawn, Jordan Spieth. Connors has won it twice. Here's kind of what they did and their path. But if you expand that out to top 5, you can kind of get a little bigger picture here. I definitely see a lot more green in the around the green area than we normally see. I guess that's because green regulation numbers are a little lower than normal. Not necessarily a bomber's paradise, according to Bet the Number, but not going to hurt. You can obviously see that if you're extra long, you can gain some strokes on the field if you're 20 yards longer than average. And if you're shorter than average, you're going to lose some strokes. The approach buckets are interesting because this is very much, and it reflects, if you look at the Bet the Number model this week, it reflects in one of their key buckets. Really kind of wedges and short irons is really where it's at here. There's not a ton of long irons as we see on other courses, certainly not like we did last week. But also you notice the rough penalty. There's not a rough penalty. Yeah. In fact, a lot of times you could argue that the hitting it from the rough, you get better greens and regulation opportunity than you do from the fairway. There's an argument to be made for that. So anyway, a little bit about the golf course. Anything else to add there, Pat, for the viewers, or we can get into some picks here.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it, there is a profile though. When just looking at the winners there, with Corey Connors winning a couple times, JJ Spawn, guys that are great ball strikers. These fairways are relatively narrow, but I do, like you said, I don't think that there's a huge penalty in the rough, and we haven't seen that just looking back at the stats. But so I think, but when you just look at the past winners and some of the people I was looking at when you were kind of scrolling up there on the leaderboards that are just your good ball strikers, hit fairways, hit greens. And it is, it's always an advantage for length, but I just don't think it's definitely not a factor like we saw last week.
All right, golf addicts, we've partnered with our friends at DraftKings, and the battle for the jacket is heating up in Augusta. And there's no better place to sweat the action than DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for fantasy golf fans. And for the year's first major, DraftKings is giving all customers a shot to play free for a $1 million top prize with your next $10 deposit. It's simple to play. Build your dream lineup while staying under the salary cap, then sit back and watch as your players rack up points. Every birdie, every bogey, every clutch putt, feel the intensity of every shot. Should you roster Rory? You banking on Scotty doing it again? Are there some live guys you like? I don't know. Maybe they need to be in your lineups. We shall see. Download the DraftKings app and use code JUNKIES to play free for a shot at the $1 million top prize with just a $10 deposit. That's code JUNKIES for all DraftKings customers. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Minimum $10 deposit required. One single-use $10 ticket rewarded for Fantasy Golf Millionaire contest that expires on April 10th at 7 a.m. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions.draftkings.com. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions. All right, let's get into the DraftKings DFS board for the Valero Texas Open. First off, this is the last chance that you have to qualify to get to the Masters. So the only way you can get in Augusta is if you are not previously qualified and you win the Valero. That's it. So you got to win. But that has happened a lot. I think I saw 8 of the last 12 or something have 8 of the last 12 winners here were not previously qualified. We also get a lot of first-time winners. Some key names in here that I'll just say off the top, and we can come back to these later if we want to mention them. But some key names when I was just looking through it, not at Augusta next week and need to win to get there. Siwoo Kim. All right.
Really?
Great record at Augusta. Not currently in. Keith Mitchell, Gary Woodland, Ben Griffin, who was the bubble boy, top 50 world ranking, got outed by Michael Kim, I think by literally fractional points. Maybe he gets an invite. Who knows? Jake Knapp, Lee Hodges, Taylor Moore, Alex Smalley, Joel Damon, and Bud Cowley. So those are some names not at Augusta showing up here wanting to take it down. Everybody wants to take it down this week, but just some notable names there. The top of the board on DK, you've got Ludwig, Tommy Ladd, Cantlay, and Corey Connors in that 10K range. Decent field here. I'd say it's not bad from like that 9K and above spot. It's interesting. We don't have either one of the big guns here. I mean, Ludwig, you could say, is a big gun, but he's definitely been a little hit or miss this year. So we'll see. We shall see. But and then the 6K, I will tell you just first impressions, Pat. First impressions for me, I looked at the 6K and I was like, yuck. I don't love a lot of plays down there. So I think this is going to be living in that balanced build kind of spot for me. Not sure how much I'll go up to this 10K range. Although I do really, really like Corey Connors. I think Corey Connors is playing fantastic. He has won here twice in the last 5 years. He would be the one in this range for me. But overall, your thoughts on the pricing on the and then specifically this 10K spot?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think when you look down at that 6K range, there's not a whole lot of things or players there that really give me a ton of excitement. There may be a couple that you could go to, but I do think that the way this field kind of lines up, it's going to be more balanced for me, especially going back, what you talked about, a lot of first-time winners here. I think that's something that's interesting. Look at the top of the board. I mean, I think, you can make a case to play any of these guys. I feel like actually like Cantlay is going to be the pivot play up here. I think there's going to be a lot of people that play Connors. I think Fleetwood and Ludwig are certainly going to get a ton of attention. So I think Cantlay might be the pivot play. But I do, if we're talking about chalk, I think Fleetwood is going to be certainly one that I will play. I don't care if he's maybe because Minwoo just won, Fleetwood will finally win. I don't know, but I mean I know he's won, but on the PGA Tour.
All right, well, so there's going to be debate right off the top because I think Fleetwood is the dumb chalk play of the week.
No,
I do. It is. It is.
He's not the dumb chalk play.
What do you want him to do at 10-7 in this field? What do you want him to do? What do you
want him to probably win or finish second and make a lot of birdies? I don't know, but I think he can do it. If Minwoo could do it last week, he can do it this week.
Is he capable of doing it? Yes, he is. I don't hate Tommy Ladd. I love Tommy. I love Tommy.
I know you love Tommy Ladd.
He is capable of it. Is he worthy of your investment and your faith at 10-7 as the second highest price guy?
He's worthy of some of it at least.
No, he's not. And plus, with a weak 6K range, to me, did you mention that? What are your thoughts? I mean, have you tried to put a lineup together with him in it? It's not. Dipping down in the 6K is tough. It's not great.
I put together good lineups last week with Scotty in there.
I feel like, but the 6K range was deeper. And do not compare putting a lineup together with Scotty in it versus Tommy Fleetwood.
I'm just saying that I do think down at that low 7,000 range, I can still put together a good lineup.
I would take Connors all day, every day over Fleetwood if they ran this tournament 1,000 times. And
okay, what if Connors is?
I bet they come in near the same. I mean, I could see
if they're the same. All things considered, you have Corey Connors and you have Fleetwood, and their ownership percentage is exactly the same, and Connors is just $600 less. You're gonna go Connors every single time.
100%. You're not?
No, I'm not.
You are a fool.
I'm going to have some exposure.
You are a fool. What? The man has won this tournament twice. He's playing better than Tommy Fleetwood, and he's $600 cheaper. If they come out the same. Now, I will say this. I think Connors is going to be higher owned, but I don't think it's going to be by much. It might be 3%, 4%. It's not going to be much because people want to play Tommy Ladd.
He is sneaky playing better. I'll give you that because
they
both have 3 straight, basically top 15 finishes, but he has 3 straight top 10s. So I get that.
Top 8.
Well, it's semantics, DB. But still, I still think
they have 3 top 15 finishes, and Connor's worst finish is 8th, and freaking Fleetwood is 16th.
I know. I'm just listen. If I get a little edge too on ownership with Fleetwood, I'd be more than happy to take that too.
All right. Well, yeah, I do think you're right. It looks like Cantlay is going to be the one sandwiched between that bunch, so he could be your popular pivot there in the 10K range. All right, let's keep working here. So other chalk in this like 9 and 10K spot. I do think Akshay is going to be quite popular, and that one is going to be that's a tough one for me to fade because Akshay does feel like he's got a different gear with that putter that he cheats with. I mean, it seems like starting this year, 2025, he's gained strokes in every event putting except for the Arnold Palmer. He lost almost a stroke in 2 rounds putting there. That is not the same path he's been on historically over his career. So with Akshay hitting it well lately, I mean, Arnold Palmer was not good, but he's been fairly consistent tee to green so far in 2025, but putting it far better than he has been in 2024 and 23. Akshay is very enticing to me at 9,300. That is going to be, I don't know, we need to come up with a name of it, like the chalk play that you would love to play, and it's going to be the hardest for you to resist playing, although you probably know you should fade it. Like I probably should fade that, but it's going to be very interesting. I think Berger's going to be popular there too, which leads me to a guy I love to play, and that's Keegan. I love playing Keegan.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to play him here. Speed's going to be low owned. I don't want anything to do with it.
Oh, come on.
No.
Just a little bit?
No.
I want a little bit of
Why?
joy.
No.
He's not playing that bad. I mean, he's got a top 10 a few weeks ago at the Cognizant, T28 at the Valspar.
Yeah.
Good history here with a win and a top 10 last year. I want to.
Maybe you're right. It depends. But see, this is what's going to happen. It happens all the time with him, right? Is everybody's going to be like, oh, he's going to be low owned. And then they're going to, let's pivot to him. And then he's going to steam up. And then by Thursday morning, he's going to be 16%. And you're going to hate
People
yourself.
people are so, what would the word be that I'm looking for? They're just disgruntled with Jordan right now. Like, nobody's really won anything with Jordan in their DFS lineups, I don't think. Nobody's really done anything great with him. He hasn't won in a while. Like, I just feel like there's like this whole indifference to Jordan, and I want to take advantage. I think he's like a, he's like a stock that's down and nobody wants to buy.
He's like a tech stock right now. He's
Yeah.
one of the Mag 7.
And everybody, yeah, good job, DV. And everybody is just, sort of down on it. And this is like where I feel like I need to start to get some shares. And I'm going to do it with Jordan this week.
All right, so everybody's disgruntled and you're just gruntled.
I'm gruntled. Yeah, exactly. Right. But everything else I'm in agreement with you though. Keegan was one of my favorites in here. He's played here a couple times, has done really well. I love how his game is right now. So I think Keegan is a great play. I don't know how he's one that's interesting to me. I would bet like 15% somewhere in there.
No, I could see him being lower.
Keegan's
like always the one that people talk about. He's one they talk about and they don't push the button.
Mm-hmm.
They don't roster him anyway.
Yeah.
I want to move on to the AK range, and I want you to start it. Give me some guesses on the chalk, but then quickly, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of chalk here, but I would like to hear the guys you're gruntled on in the AK range.
Well, all right. There's a couple here that I think, as far as the chalk, man, it's tough to find a ton of chalk in here. I think, I think Siwoo actually could have some chalk.
Interesting.
I think Tony Finau probably might. I don't want to play a chalky Finau at all. I think Keith Mitchell could have some chalk at 8,900. He's been playing well. We've seen him, and one of the things is too, like, what do you see? Like, we've seen him in interviews and things like that. We've seen him have some good rounds, so it's kind of he's at top, at the top of folks' minds. So I think we could see him being chalky. This range, though, I'll say in general, DB, I don't think this is a very chalky range. I think you're going to see a lot of people skip through it and drop down into that 7K range, and so I just don't see a ton. Maybe Bud Cauley is chalk, because we could see that. And look, you got on me last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making the same mistake. I am not making the same mistake.
People are in the comments on you too about, well, not just Bud Cauley, but other things.
They should be in the comments. I just kind of left them out to dry and didn't, I didn't believe in them when I should. And now
I do think Bud Cauley is going to be popular, and for good reason. I'm interested in Bud. We'll see.
He's number one, by the way, in the BTN model. Number one.
He's number 6 in mine.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on about this range being kind of a dead spot. So if you want to really pivot and differentiate lineups, I think finding some good value in here is important. And I do think Bud Cauley has a good chance to be popular. It's a good story. People are tracking, if you're following golf, if you're a hardo enough on golf, like you do know about his physical issue and then coming back and knowing that he's kind of limited here, and he's obviously been playing well. So I think people are going to be interested in Bud Cauley. I was surprised you said Siwoo, but I could see it. I mean, he's a name that people recognize. He's got a decent record here. And Mitchell's interesting. So for me, I don't think anybody in here is going to be super popular, but I was trying to figure out who in here do I like. And for me, I think it is Mitchell. It's Siwoo. It is Bud Cauley. But it sounds like all those guys could get a little love. Interesting to hear you bring up all three. I think I'm out on Bridgman. I think this is like his 7th event in a row, and I think he's just fizzling. So I think I might pass. Mav has enough firepower to get me going. I'm a little disappointed in how he's played since kind of the West Coast swing. He's not been good, but I do feel like he can at least turn it on at any point. Probably looking for some nice form. He's at least hitting it well. So I think he's got some firepower. I don't want to be super overweight on him, but I like him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. I'm a fan there, so I do like that. Yeah, I mean, I think, outside of Collie, I kind of wondered a little bit about Sam Burns, but his game seems so all over the place right now. So
Yeah, I think I'm out on Sam Burns. All right, golf addicts, we partnered with our friends at DraftKings, and the battle for the jacket is heating up in Augusta. And there's no better place to sweat the action than DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for fantasy golf fans. And for the year's first major, DraftKings is giving all customers a shot to play free for a $1 million top prize with your next $10 deposit. It's simple to play. Build your dream lineup while staying under the salary cap, then sit back and watch as your players rack up points. Every birdie, every bogey, every clutch putt, feel the intensity of every shot. Should you roster Rory? You banking on Scotty doing it again? Are there some live guys you like? I don't know. Maybe they need to be in your lineups. We shall see. Download the DraftKings app and use code JUNKIES to play free for a shot at the $1 million top prize with just a $10 deposit. That's code JUNKIES for all DraftKings customers. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Minimum $10 deposit required. One single-use $10 ticket rewarded for Fantasy Golf Millionaire contest that expires on April 10th at 7 a.m. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions.draftkings.com. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions. All right, let's move on to the kind of the 7K range. Let's take a look here. 7K popular plays. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I see a lot. I mean, maybe Ben Griffin. People are pulling for Ben Griffin. He's obviously been playing well. This is his 13th event in a row.
I literally had in my notes to mention that if you didn't. 13th
Crazy.
in a row.
Started.
Does anybody play? Have you ever heard of anybody playing that many events?
Yeah, I think this will take it, won't it? I think it will. If Tony were here, we could ask him. Knapp may get a little love up there. I don't know. Do you have any I don't know. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of uber chalk here, or maybe it'll take shape as we get closer to lineup lock.
Well, first off, I can't even believe Jake's not in the Masters, but I guess he did sort of have that run last year with the win and everything, and then his game just sort of fell off the rest of the year before it started coming back early this year. So I don't know.
Yeah,
but it does surprise me that he's not in there. I don't know. I think you could see some potential chalk for guys like, who knows? Kitayama had a good, decent week last week. Maybe he's got some chalk. Do you think he could?
No.
Ricky Fowler, DB. Ricky Fowler might have some
also
chalk.
None of those guys are going to have chalk. None of them are going to be chalky. What are you talking about?
You never
Those
know.
are pivots. If you want to pivot, I don't want to, but not with either one of those guys.
Alex Smalley.
Yeah, could be. Even though he's coming.
I'm done.
He just checks
right now.
You done with Smalley?
Yeah, I'm out.
You've been riding him. Did you have him last week too?
I did have him last week.
No.
Yep, I'm out for right now.
See, I'm kind of interested.
He'll drag me back in.
He's cheap, and if people are pissed, I mean, he doesn't have course history here. He's coming off 2 cuts, but he has been hitting it well. If he turns up, I'm interested. I mean, my favorite plays in here are Lee Hodges. I like Hodges a lot. At 75. I do like Tom Hoge. Hoge just gives me a little hope because he's cheap. He found his irons and his driver at the Players, which had seemingly been completely missing in 2025, to the tune of almost 11 strokes gained ball striking at the Players, which is hard to do. And so that kind of gets me going a little bit for him to be so cheap. So Hoagie's interesting to me at 74. Smalley, I had my eye out on. And then, a guy we talked about last week that we liked, finished T18. He's been playing well the last few weeks. Victor Perez at 7,100. I also like Vic P.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say him, but I'm with you. I think I think that's a good price coming off of. I mean, he's got 3 straight top 25s and has not really changed a whole lot in the pricing. I think
he's basically got the same 3 weeks finishes as Tommy Fleetwood.
Okay, yeah, give or take a few spots, DB. But I do think I think he's definitely a big play in here. I like Chris Kirk. I think Chris Kirk kind of had a rough start to the year, but he's got a 10th place finish here. He's got a 6th place finish here. His game's coming around. I feel like Chris Kirk could be a good kind of pivot play in this area at 7,400. I like my boy. I love my boy Rico Hoey, DB. Me and my dad.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
both love Rico Hoey. T11th last week in Houston. He has a T14 the one time he's played here. He is at 7,600. He's 38th in the BTN model. So I do like some Rico Hoey as well.
What's your dad's DraftKings DFS name? Isn't it like Mr. P. Perry Sr. or something? If you run into P. Perry Sr., Mr.
It is like P. Perry Sr. Yeah, if you run into that.
If you run into the P. Perry Sr. buzzsaw in the DraftKings DFS streets, you can bet your bottom dollar that Rico Hoey and Henrik Norlander will be in that lineup for this.
They will.
And he will probably take your money. He plays every week and he makes money.
I know. Poor dad also when Charles Howell went over to live.
Oh, he didn't know what to do with himself.
He didn't know what to do.
And now Kisner's struggling. He's
struggling.
He's sitting there every week. He loads DraftKings. He's like, "Where's Scott Brown been?" He doesn't understand what's happening. But
if Luke List is playing though, he'll throw some Luke List in there. So
yeah, he does win money though. Isn't it crazy? I just want to draw the people's attention to this before we move on to 6K and wrap this up. That 7,100 and 7,000 Cam Young and Max Homa. And we talked about Victor Perez and freaking Alex Smalley down here. Like, it's just wild that I mean they're appropriately priced, but it's just wild how far they've dropped. All right, let's wrap this up. I told you I didn't really love the 6K range, and I know I'm insert beat the dead horse Family Guy thing or whatever. Like Stephen Fisk, I'm not stopping. Stephen Fisk is the Rico Hoey to, like, I'm your dad. Stephen Fisk is my Rico Hoey. Basically.
Okay. That's fine.
Well, no more. I guess Charles Howell, because your dad and Charles Howell members at the same club. Me and Stephen Fisk members at the same club. Good dude, great ball striker, up and coming talent. I think I'm buying. So I'm in on him at 66. I'll take, and I do like a little Henrik Norlander at 67. Carson Young, I'd rather have him than Cameron Young at 65. He was interesting to me, but who knows? And then I got two names I've never said before. I'm just going to.
Oh, I love it when we get those.
Just going to toss it out there. The first one's easy to give you my reasons because they're very few, because we don't know a lot. But we know his dad is a good coach, Preston Summerhays. This kid is a stud. He was a stud amateur. He's a stud in college. His girlfriend is an absolute missile. Okay. The guy hits bombs, and he's been around the pro game. Preston Summerhays is going to be something, I do believe. So I'm interested. And then there's like some weird part of me. Let me figure out what it was, because was it my model? Did he do something in my model? I guess a little bit. He popped in the model a little bit off the tee, greens and reg. Doesn't make a lot of big numbers. The German, Jeremy Paul.
Oh,
kind of.
His name keeps popping up occasionally. He's like a first round leader type person. He's up there.
Beats it off the tee. Decent putter. Irons are a little hit or miss. Short game's a little hit or miss. But I don't know. Something about Jeremy Paul kind of popped out at me, 6,700. But Fisk is my favorite. And then, that's probably it.
Yeah. This is such when you really go through this range, it is tough to feel confident about anybody. There's a lot of red on my screen, which means miscuts.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to kind of feel this out. I do think, the names like a Joel Damon at 6,900, been playing better, T18 in Houston. I think I feel confident about him. But there's not a whole lot of other guys that really give me. I mean, Henrik Norlander shows up well in the BTN model. I mean, he's third. So if you want to go by the model, he's one you could look at too.
He's 15th in mine, largely due to the amazing iron play.
Yeah, which I think is very important here. So he's another one. But outside of that, I don't really have any. I'll leave all the obscure names up to you this week, DB.
It's a tough range. We're shooting shots out here in the 6K streets. Those are the 6K bays. Listen, again, get back in them DFS waters if you've been bouncing around, or you've been kind of doing something else, or just kind of half casually doing it. If you're get back to being gruntled with it. You know what I mean? It's coming. The Masters next week. We're going to drop Masters content starting this weekend. So be on the lookout for that on Saturday and Sunday, probably dropping a few different shows. We're going to do a Masters flashback and lessons learned podcast, all about looking back at past Masters DFS takeaways, stuff like roster construction, Millie Maker lineup analysis, ownership stuff, trends, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be good. We're going to knock that out. We're going to do a Masters DFS show, run through the DFS ranges, talk through the field, similar to what we did on this show. And then, of course, the betting show as well. It's going to be great. All that stuff's going to start dropping on the weekend. So you'll have it for Monday morning or Sunday or whatever you want to get to it. But we're excited. Can't wait for it. What else? Check us out in the Discord. Pat's going to be doing his thing in his own backyard at the Corn Ferry Tour event. So it might have some Corn Ferry Tour bets or plays or whatever for you. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
And may your screens be green. Pat, anything else?
No. I'm just looking forward to the Masters next week and a big week this week.
Me too. See ya. Out. Tour Junkies featuring David Barnett is not an affiliate of CWM LLC. Opinions expressed by the host or guests do not reflect those of CWM LLC. CWM LLC does not endorse gambling or the entities promoted by the Tour Junkies podcast. David is a non-registered representative of CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.